Welcome to Nightmare Echoes. Listen, scream, and embrace your horror obsession. I'm your host, Elazar, and in this episode, Steven helps dissect Victor Frankenstein, where science, ambition, and bad reviews collide. How does the story differ from traditional Frankenstein adaptations? How much money did this movie cost, and where did it all go? And did the film completely miss the point of Mary Shelley's original novel? If you dare to follow us, all the links are in the description. Next week on the podcast, The Thing. But until then, a film that feels more stitched together than the creations it made, Victor Frankenstein. Hello everybody, welcome back to Nightmare Echoes. I'm your host Elzar. I'm joined again by Steven. Steven, how's it going?
Hey, doing well. You?
Not too bad. I'm excited to be talking about Victor Frankenstein 2015.
Right.
Directed by Paul McGowan. I might have said that wrong. Who is known for Push and Sherlock, the TV show, which was amazing. Written by Max Landis, who worked on Chronicle, American Ultra, and Bright. The main cast is James McAvoy, who is amazing in pretty much everything. Split is great M. Night Shyamalan movie. He plays Professor Xavier in X-Men First Class and movies that came out after that, which I thought were great. He's also in Atonement. Daniel Radcliffe, of course, from Harry Potter. He's also in The Woman in Black, something called The Swiss Army Man, which I haven't seen. But when you make a movie with James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe, it's got to be a masterpiece, right?
If it's named Harry Potter, then yeah. But hold on, only one actor was not.
It's got Jessica Brown Finley, who plays Lorelai, Andrew Scott, who plays Inspector Roderick Turpin, who was also in Sherlock. He played Moriarty. He was also in the James Bond movie Spectre. And then we have Charles Dance, who plays Baron Frankenstein, who was in Game of Thrones, The Imitation of Life, and The Golden Child. It had a budget of $40 million, but for some reason only made $34.2 million worldwide. Only making $5.8 in the U.S. and Canada combined.
So it lost money.
It lost some money. Yeah.
Bet the producers were not happy about that.
It's only money,
That was a huge budget for this movie.
That is a huge budget for this movie.
Yeah, I thought it was too big, maybe.
But it looks beautiful because of it, I think.
Yeah, there's some of the scenes. I like the old buildings and old London town, I guess they're in.
Mm-hmm. It's 1860s. So the movie starts off, and we're in a circus. We have this nameless hunchback.
Now, before you get into that, the movie, I was going to say that Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus in 1818, I think it was first released. And she was a female author in the late 1700s, 1800s. That's amazing to me.
Was she a teenager when she wrote it, or pretty young, right?
She was pretty young. I don't remember the exact age, but maybe I got the 1700s wrong. But I thought I know that she wrote this book in 1818.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to mention in Greek mythology, Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus were titans, like this race of giants, and they were always at odds with the Olympian gods, like Zeus being an Olympian god. And Prometheus and his brother were said to have created all living things. So Prometheus created humans from like clay, is the myth, and gifted them with fire from the gods. And so the idea that Mary dropped the name of Prometheus raises questions about the ethics and the role of science and technology in affecting life on Earth. So who can say whether things like medicine or growing life in a lab is ethical? I don't know what your take is, because I know you're in medicine. But I don't know. Maybe we need a horror movie about a dire wolf next.
Maybe. There are definitely medical horrors. Definitely about big pharma. But that's interesting. That's cool. Thank you for that. So,
yeah, it's unbelievably creative, I think, for that time period of the early 1800s. Yeah. And this thing, like, I didn't look it up, but I know it's been a screenplay and a film since, like, movies first started becoming popular.
Oh, yeah, like how many times have they done Frankenstein?
Yeah, I lost count, and I was going to look that up. But
we got, like, The Bride of Frankenstein, The Son of Frankenstein are also classics. And then you have newer movies that are called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We have Frankenstein. There's I, Frankenstein, which is more like an action movie that involves gargoyles. Lisa Frankenstein, which is really fun, that Margot covered. And Victor Frankenstein, this one, yeah.
And then even before that, back in silent films in the early 1900s, it was done, a couple of times. And then I think probably one of my favorites, one of the classic ones that I think a lot of people might remember, is the Frankenstein from, I think it was 1931 with Boris Karloff in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the comedy Young Frankenstein?
Oh, yeah,
that one.
yeah. That's is that Mel Brooks?
It might be.
I think so.
So, yeah, it's been done to death. Pardon the pun. But I think it's fun. It's a movie that I like to just put on and turn my brain off because it's pretty. But that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, jumping back into the story.
Sure.
Starring Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah. He's a nameless hunchback clown who is abused at the circus. We see that he doesn't have much of a life. He longs for more than what he has. He's also in love with this acrobat named Lorelei. And during one of her performances, she falls to the ground while doing high acrobatic tricks, and she gets really injured. He comes over, starts to intervene, and he seems to showcase some of his medical knowledge when Victor Frankenstein shows up, a medical student, and he is impressed with the knowledge that this hunchback has. So together they set her body right so she can breathe again, and then the circus tent master, whatever, says that it's all part of the show and the audience should enjoy it. So while they take her out, the circus continues.
So, yeah, this is just crazy that she fell, and she appeared to me to be dead, or like at least unconscious here.
Oh, yeah.
And this man comes out and he's looking at her, and another man comes from the crowd, Victor Frankenstein, we find out later, and they figure out very quickly that her clavicle, her shoulder bone, has broken, and the bones are pressing down on her lungs. She can't breathe. So he's proving to be a pretty interesting character, because not only is he in the circus as a clown, but he's also knows a lot. He's more knowledgeable than he appears to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this piques Victor's interest. And so Victor's talking to him later, telling him that he can help him escape. Of course, this unnamed character has no idea how to survive outside, is only ever known in the circus, and is scared to even try. But Victor shows up later in the night, starts to pick the lock, saying he has until he unlocks it to decide whether to go with them. Daniel Radcliffe's character is obviously just scared, but he opens the lock, and then we get this crazy chase scene where they have to work together, where all these people in the circus are coming after them.
Yeah.
These people come to attack them. Victor Frankenstein uses a mirror and then dims a light at the right time to make it look like he's standing there. And so when he throws the knife, it goes through the mirror, killing another guy that's chasing them.
That is crazy.
Of course, they get blamed for this murder, right? And together they are able to escape. He takes them to this big, giant factory.
It looked like a factory, a lab of some kind. But
it's way too big.
I did really like that scene where he's escaping. There's just so many things happening at once.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of sticking with the trickery of Prometheus, if you will, because Prometheus tricked the gods to get the fire. He, with that mirror tricks and the fire happening, and I just thought it was shot really well with a lot of camera movement showing the chaos during that escape. But yeah, you're right. They come up, I guess, from like a sewer or an underground pipe into this factory.
Massive laboratory. Place. Yeah, I also want to mention the circus looked beautiful. A lot of the money had to go.
I was thinking
into
that
making the circus so
that's where the 40
beautiful.
million went.
Right. Maybe. And the rent on this space. This place is too big. When we get here. So, right off the bat, he tells this guy who he names him Igor. He tells him he's not really a hunchback, and he's confused. And he pulls off his shirt to see this massive cyst, which has always grossed me out. Like, you see shows like Dr. Pimple Popper and those kind of things. Those kind of things gross me out. He gets a big plunger. He starts sucking it out. But then, like someone siphoning gasoline from a hose, He starts to suck on it, which gets a little bit of that pus
Ugh.
in his mouth. He has to spit it out. I was, it's gross. And he drains the whole cyst. And then he says that his back has been shaped the wrong way for so long that he's used to it. So he puts his brace on, forces him to stand upright. This confuses Igor. He's never
freaking out.
Stood up before.
He's lots of stuff happened to this guy. He came up from this sewer pipe, if you will, in the middle of the city. They go into the lab, and he's pretty much attacked by this physician, Victor Frankenstein. He doesn't know what's going on.
Looks like
he's never been out of the circus before.
Yeah. He also does mention that Igor is the name of his absent roommate, so that's where he gives him the name. They began collaborating on Victor's experiment to create life, which attracts the attention of Inspector Roderick Turpin, who deems their worth as satirical.
Oh, back when Victor Frankenstein fixes the cyst on his back,
Yeah.
I was thinking that's gonna definitely leave a scar, but not on the forehead.
Yeah, but also he had to, he was worse off beforehand. If I was hunchback and then got to stand up straight, a small scar on the back would be the least of my problems.
Would it be lightning shaped by any chance?
Oh, I got it.
Oh!
I was like, I thought you were talking about the stitching from the Universal Monsters Frankenstein United with the stitches in his forehead. I thought that's what you were referring to. I did not at all get that you were talking about the boy who lived. That makes more sense. It took me forever to get that joke. So, yeah, they get the attention of this inspector who is determined to stop their work, right? We get Victor and Igor collecting animal parts for a creature they've named Gordon, which they're working on. Igor isn't sure what they're doing is right, but he shows him how he can be a scientist and help him. And as they work, they have many failed experiments, but they finally get a part where he wakes up a brain with some eyes. He sees they're moving. Igor mentions that he has the leads crossed or something, which helps him.
He messed up the optic nerves.
Right.
I thought that's what he said.
Yeah. So he helps him fix it, which shows how intelligent he is. He can see this scientist's work and notice where he makes an error, and he's able to correct it. So
yeah,
some part here.
There's the police inspector you mentioned.
Yeah.
He was at the circus grounds investigating because there was that murder there, but there were all these false accusations against
and he
them,
saw right through them.
And he saw right through them, and then told 100% the story of what really happened. I was thinking Columbo here,
right?
Figured it out.
Moriarty.
But yeah.
But then he goes against that anyway and says still put out a manhunt for the
still
hunchback.
Yeah, and so he's got some type of, I don't know what this guy's problem is yet. We don't know yet.
Vendetta. They put up these wanted posters for them, and so Victor tells them, look, they're looking for a hunchback, and this face looks nothing like me. But the inspector knows who they are. He figures out that they're there.
He sees the posters out in the middle of town because he left Victor Frankenstein's flat for a while.
Yeah, he gave
to
him
go
money.
Visit Lorelei.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
in the
hospital. Tried to take care of her, and then that's where he sees these posters put out by the police inspector. I was gonna ask you about that treatment that he was asking there was this medical assistant or nurse of some kind, a lady that was in there, and he asked her to, hey, can you give this to Lorelei, and then gave her some of the money. But he asked for, I thought it was arsenic.
So,
and then I was like, well, I better ask Elzar what he thinks about that concoction.
It's interesting because that is used to treat some types of cancer, which I was shocked the first time, because we can use arsenic as a form of chemotherapy, which I was like, wait, what? The same thing. It's interesting, right? Like chemicals are weird, right? There's a drug called warfarin, right? And it comes in all these different strengths and stuff, but it is the same stuff that is derived from rat poison, but it can be used positively in patients that need it, which blows my mind that they could be the same thing.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, that can be said about a lot of things in moderation. They can be helpful, but if abused, that's it.
Right.
So I was going to say one other thing here before we move on, that Victor Frankenstein is talking a lot here before they animate the eyes about how death can be made a temporary condition. Life is temporary. Why should death be any different? Because Shelley actually stated in her book, life and death appeared to be ideal bounds, is how she put it.
Sure.
How the author put it. But yeah, there are a lot of questions that Victor Frankenstein kind of brings up to foreshadow what he's going to be showing Igor now.
Yeah. There's a scene where they go out to like a ball or a dance or dinner.
Yeah, later on.
With a bunch of fancy people, and they run into Lorelai here. And so Victor kind of bores a lot of people with his speech. I think they think he might be a little grotesque in the way he described things. It definitely gets Lorelai's attention. She's also obviously blown away by the fact that Igor is upright now, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think she tells Igor that Victor is bad for him at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. That kind of makes sense. I think she's, several times I think during the movie, she's trying to pull him away. She tells him. And Igor even has this sense a couple of times that he brings it up too. When the eyes were moving, I was kind of confused because of the science part about that.
Sure.
I was like, okay, so there's optic nerves. I guess they're controlling the eyes through the nerves. There's no brain or anything. But the eye control was like, it's sort of like completely idiotic. Because the way that they're doing it is they're pulling organs. You mentioned, from animals.
Yeah.
And they're pulling all these organs and they're having them function on their own, not all together in a body, but they're treating them like as separate or independent things. And I just thought that was kind of weird.
It is, and the whole premise doesn't really work if you're gonna. I mean, giving someone else's blood is risky enough, especially in a time period where you don't know what blood type people are, right? But you kind of have to suspend disbelief in anything regarding Frankenstein that a random person's liver would work in the same body with another person's, stomach. Like it's fantasy as it is already, right?
Right.
So it's interesting. So that's what I mean. Like, I can enjoy myself if I turn my brain off, which sometimes I like movies that I can do that with.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Sometimes these types of movies are good. My wife often tells me, like, it's a movie. It's,
You're right.
You're supposed to. And, yeah.
Yeah, watching movies with my dad. I love watching movies with my dad. But he, like, sometimes bites his tongue because he'll be like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense because of this. And I'm like, let's just enjoy the movie and then tell me afterwards.
Sometimes I think I can look past it because it's a really good movie, but I had trouble looking past this part in the movie.
Sure.
I just thought it was kind of weird that they were doing this. I also was wondering, like, when they were out on the town, you mentioned they went out. They're celebrating because what was the reason for that?
Because they think they got further in the experiment.
Okay.
Like, they think they're closer to making life a reality. I think, right?
Yeah. But it's all, like, separate pieces. It's sort of like the car. You can't just have a part of a car sitting there and, like, hey, that's going to... I guess you could, but it's just... It didn't make sense to me. That's all.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. You got to... Science doesn't always work. So, Victor and Igor collect a lot more body parts, and they get ready to a point where they think they're ready to do a demonstration at a university. Igor invites Lorelai to this demonstration. They have the crowd of people in the small lecture room. They pull off the tarp, and it looks gross. Kind of looks gorilla-like.
Or like a chimpanzee or something.
They call it Gordon. Yeah. When Igor flips the switch, it doesn't work. People are getting ready to leave. He does it 3 times. He turns the juice all the way up by the 4th time maybe, and it finally comes to life. And then it becomes very violent. So there's this attack scene. Gordon start attacking everybody. Unfortunately, Victor has to kill his own creation.
That was so sad.
Which is sad.
Yeah, I thought it was sad. But this creation, it was alive, but it was a monster. It really was. It didn't have, like, it was just attacking and...
Yeah.
But I was going to say, before they do all of this, when they were out on the town, Lorelai didn't recognize Igor because of how he looked. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was interesting that it took her a while to recognize him. But I mean, he looks so much different now.
Sure. Which I think is why the cops would have trouble finding him on the streets.
Right. But she winds up joining them at the table.
Yep.
And Victor Frankenstein was going on a rant right before she joined them about growing babies in the lab, basically like in vitro fertilization.
Right. Eliminating the use for women.
And it made the other women at the table, this is before Lorelai joined them, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder how Elon Musk's conversations must go with the many mothers of his children.
Oh my God.
Are they happy? Are they uncomfortable? But I thought the conversation got better after Lorelai joined them.
Sure.
Victor Frankenstein says Lorelai's uncomfortable, very unsettling with the idea of creating life out of death. Victor Frankenstein says, life is beautiful, but unfortunately, it is finite. And then on the flip side of Lorelai telling Igor not to stay with Victor Frankenstein, when they're leaving, Victor Frankenstein tells Igor that he should not see Lorelai again. But yeah, that's right before Victor Frankenstein reveals the monster, and then they go off to the
right.
college.
And I don't like that Victor does this, because I think if Igor has a happier life, he'll lose Igor maybe. But I mean, why would you stand in the way of that? Like
I don't know.
If they, like, I don't like that part of Victor. Also, like, before the experiment at the university, he tells Igor that he's so smart and intelligent that he's not his assistant, he's his partner. And when things go wrong at the university, he starts treating him like an assistant again, which upset me.
So it's almost like Victor Frankenstein, a character, has a split personality a bit.
Sure.
You know, he keeps flopping back
Dr.
and
Jekyll,
forth on
Mr.
this.
Hyde.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's what it's looking like to me.
Yeah.
But he's got some other problems. We find out there's a final notice on a bill, and
the university's threatening to kick him out.
And his dad comes and talks about that.
Yeah. And then we get a scene where Lorelai, we find out she's now involved with a baron. She's horrified by the events that happened at this university and urges Igor to dissuade Victor from continuing. Igor learns of Victor's obsession with guilt over his brother Henry's death, which his father blames him for. We have a scene where the police inspectors come, even though they don't have a warrant. He's told he can't have a warrant.
But he came in anyway.
They go to break in, and they're trying to bust through the front doors while Victor's packing up. Igor's trying to talk him out of his work. And the inspector ends up coming through a secret door that he sees Igor going in. They have a showdown here.
And he says, "Be careful, Mr. Frankenstein. You toy with rightful forces, and there is no mercy in nature."
Yeah, and they end up battling a little bit and escaping through the sewer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there was this was the building that had a connection at the bottom on the floor.
Yeah.
They could get out that way.
Yeah.
So then, they escape out there, and they wind up going to meet someone from the University, Finnegan.
Yeah, it's his classmate. So Victor's expelled from college, but gains support from his wealthy classmate, Finnegan, who funds the creation of a humanoid named Prometheus, which is kind of cool.
Which is, it's interesting that they named, like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's connecting, but I was like, wait a minute. Prometheus is the one that created life, not the created.
Right.
Like,
it is funny, right? Like, you missed the paradox point of the story here. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Anyway, interesting name.
So Igor grows suspicious of Finnegan's intentions.
They were talking about Finnegan funding the Prometheus project, and then Victor Frankenstein was talking to Igor about several ideas that he had based on what happened to Gordon, problems with the breathing, and then all of a sudden they're really excited that Finnegan's gonna fund them, and he starts brainstorming and talking about shocking the body to life with lightning, having multiple sets of organs like two hearts.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And anyway.
So somewhere along the line, Igor discovers that Finnegan's plan is to weaponize Prometheus. And then Igor's nearly killed at this point. He survives and reunites with Lorelai.
So Finnegan wants Victor Frankenstein to work on this project.
Yeah.
And they've got all these ideas. So
how did Igor almost die?
So Finnegan's project that he has Victor Frankenstein working on, after they have to go through the sewer and see Finnegan, Igor and Victor Frankenstein are there, and there's a falling out between them because Victor Frankenstein wants to work on this. Igor says, no, I don't think it's a good idea. There's a falling out. Igor's kind of taking this advice from himself and from Lorelai to, like, we need to stop this. Finnegan realizes at this point that he doesn't need Igor's help.
Right.
He knew the Igor, the old roommate. He knows he's not Victor Frankenstein's old roommate. So he's got him there.
Yeah.
And he's realizing that he just needs Victor Frankenstein to work on this Prometheus project. He doesn't actually need Igor. So Finnegan has his men try to kill Igor and get him out of the picture. And then Victor Frankenstein's going up to, I guess, this castle in Scotland to work on this Prometheus project. But Igor almost drowns when the men throw him in the water. And somehow he gets out and he goes to Lorelai for help.
Right. And he convinces her to go with him to try to stop Victor, who's still working on the Prometheus.
Right. He's starting this project, and now Igor's with Lorelai, and they go to a ball, I believe.
Future Elazar here to insert. At this point in the episode, my notes were messed up or I lost my spot. Something happened here, but Steven took over, and it was great to really help me finish the episode because I got lost. So thank you, Steven. The rest is his helping me savage what we have with this episode.
So now Lorelai's taking care of Igor, and for whatever reason, Igor got Victor Frankenstein's watch, and I missed how that happened in the movie, but he realized in the watch has a name, Henry Frankenstein, engraved on it.
Which is his brother.
Yeah. And Lorelai tries to convince him that he's his own man, that Igor's his own man, and, please, you did the right thing, you need to stay away from him. But she also realizes that he really wants to go help Victor Frankenstein after noticing that his brother's name was engraved on this watch. So she goes with him to see Victor Frankenstein at this castle in Scotland. So then Finnegan's men, of course, confront them again. And whenever Igor does get over to Victor Frankenstein, he confronts him about the loss of his brother that happened in the blizzard and the fact that he had his brother's watch, and he figured out kind of what was driving Victor Frankenstein to make this monster. He wanted to create life because earlier in his life, we had some flashback scenes where it was shown that he went out in a blizzard, and we find out it was with his brother, and his brother, I guess, tried to rescue him from the blizzard and died. So there are a couple good lines that are said in the movie at this point. God set us into the world imperfect, weak, fragile, destined to die. And there's a part where Igor says, we know this story. Like, we're watching this movie for the first time, but I guess because Frankenstein's been done so much,
We know
Prometheus is being brought to life, the genius mad scientist and the unholy monster. I felt like that line could have been cut, though, because we're watching this movie. It's Frankenstein. It's sort of the story of Frankenstein told in a different way.
Right.
But they probably could have cut the line that we know this story. Let's just watch it.
Weird, right? Yeah. That's funny.
But and then you said they're bringing this monster to life. They brought the monster to life with lightning.
Yep.
I thought it was also interesting whenever the monster came up and Victor Frankenstein came up to him, he called him his brother. He said, I am your brother.
Yeah.
And he didn't say, I am your master, which is like the typical other way that Frankenstein's been told over the years. So he calls himself his brother. This is going back to the fact that he struggles from his brother's death. And
right.
They're trying to take this monster down now.
Right. But the power surge killed Finnegan?
Is that what happened?
And that's what I wrote.
Finnegan's, it looks like Finnegan dies from the power surge from the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
When it was bringing the monster to life.
Which is like taking a life to make another life happen. Almost. But then the cop shows up. He's also killed by Prometheus, correct?
The police inspector?
Yeah.
Yes, he is. And the police inspector has a backstory as well on things that have happened in his life, which brings him to want to stop Victor Frankenstein in his work. But yeah, the monster it's interesting. In this movie, it's like the last 10 to 15 minutes, they have the monster featured attacking people and story with this monster named Prometheus. When in a lot of other stories and movies, they have the monsters like featured for at least half the film.
And he's more
going
humanoid.
around. He's
We sympathize with him.
Right.
And normally mobs come after him because they don't understand.
Right. And that's sort of the idea, I think, from Shelley's story.
Right.
The mobs are coming after him to kill him because they don't understand their... Anyway.
Right.
So they come to this conclusion because this monster's killing that the only thing we can do is kill him. But as you mentioned, there's multiple organs.
Yeah.
So
they have to stab both his hearts to do it. They work together to do it. And then after this, Victor disappears and he leaves Igor a letter expressing remorse and gratitude, calling Igor his greatest creation. Victor retreats to Scotland countryside to continue his work, where Igor starts a new life with Lorelei.
Smooch, smooch.
Which I like because I like that Igor gets a life. He's not just the assistant that is kind of either laughable or just a background character. Maybe it's because I like Daniel Radcliffe. You know?
Yeah. I think he's a great actor. But maybe I'm growing old and impatient now, but I thought this movie was entirely too long. It was almost 2 hours. It had a lot of content, but I'm sure they could have cut some scenes out. And even like the line that I mentioned that Igor said about how we know the story, like, no, we're watching this story.
Right, yeah. Don't tell me it's fake. You know the story. Turn off your brains and just watch it.
It was great to see Daniel Radcliffe, but I thought some of the lines and the content probably could have been cut. It needed to be more effective and powerful as a story and not dragging out so long.
Okay.
I was actually given this movie by my old neighbor, and it's one of the probably bottom 10 movies. Sorry, man, I just didn't like it. And I got rid of it because I just didn't like it that much. But I rewatched it, so we could talk about it here. I thought that it had too much content all at once. It had additional plot lines. So we've got creating an initial animal monster, not even the Prometheus monster.
Right.
We had a romance with Lorelei. We had the police inspector backstory. We had Finnegan financing and experimentation towards the end when they're creating the project with Prometheus, and its grief-stricken brother Victor Frankenstein. It was like 4 or 5 movies in one.
I see what you're saying.
Too many stories. Sometimes the backstory, I think, works to reinforce the main storyline. I really like the Batman and the backstory with his parents, something like that, right?
Yeah.
But the additional backstory plot lines in this movie just didn't reinforce the storyline for me.
I definitely see your point with the monster not being featured enough. Mm-hmm. And then we don't care about the monster. It is just a monster, not
how did they? So he kills somebody, and then they're just immediately come to the conclusion we just need to kill this thing.
Yeah.
We just created it, but let's just we got to take it out.
He's my brother, but I got to kill him.
It's it hasn't even been around for 5 minutes yet, and you've come to this conclusion.
All right. I have a series of questions if I can ask, and then
okay. I wanted to say though that the main point of Mary Shelley's story, I felt, and other stories, the other Frankenstein stories, is basic questions of moral use of science and technology in modern times. And I thought that was the original point of the story. Sure. I felt like it got really far away from that.
I feel I think most of the internet agrees with your opinion.
I saw that too. Yeah, there are a few articles that people wrote about this movie that sort of reinforced this idea. So one of them was a story about how it didn't really grasp what it needed to. So that a lot of the authors agreed. But anyway, what did you think?
I think it's a fun action movie if I've turned my brain off. I have to disconnect it from the other material, not connected to other Frankenstein's movies to enjoy it. I do like both the actors, James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, is why I have an easier time liking the movie. I definitely like the aesthetics. I thought it was pretty. But I definitely see why changing the whole point of what it is to be the monster, and because in the original story it's really Frankenstein himself, the doctor, that's the monster, and this poor innocent creature that's created is just trying to live, and this movie misses the whole point of that, and I get it. But can I ask you some questions?
Sure. And then I got a story to tell before we finish up.
Okay. How does the film's portrayal of Igor differ from traditional Frankenstein narratives?
Oh I like this question. I actually thought about Igor's character here a lot, and maybe it's because it was Daniel Radcliffe playing, but he's not as grotesque
Yeah.
He's not as mentally disturbed either, I think,
Yeah.
as other renditions of the character throughout other stories even. Yeah, I thought some of the older movies that I've seen, it sort of shows a deranged
Mm-hmm.
person that's assisting Frankenstein, and he was definitely not that. He was kind of like, "Hi, I'm Harry Potter. I'm the innocent boy who lived."
With a hunchback.
But the hunchback was gone,
Yeah.
and then he was just like this really
Pretty
not,
boy.
yeah, like pretty boy, less grotesque, if you will.
Right.
Yep.
What themes of friendships and loyalty are explored between Victor and Igor?
Oh, that's good. So, I thought that the character development with them was done pretty well. You know, like I said, it could have been split apart into multiple movies, but just the fact that Igor discovered that his brother went out into a blizzard and tried to rescue him, and, you know, and then Frankenstein immediately notices Igor and his talent and befriends him. It reminds me of a lot of my friendships throughout my life, sort of how people meet each other, they discover some common ground, and then just build upon that in their relationships. But yeah, that was one of the positive things that came from this movie. Maybe
Sure.
was like the character development of the friendship between Igor and Victor Frankenstein.
It's a buddy film. How does the film balance elements of horror and science fiction?
Oh, see, I didn't think it balanced it that well, and I think that's probably because I wished it would have just stuck with the basic premise of, you know, is science and technology good in this application, and then, you know, the horror part. I did think that Gordon especially looked pretty creepy.
He did.
That was a pretty good part.
There's the part when they were trying to bring him with the shocks.
Uh-huh.
Did all these bugs fly
All
out?
those flies
I was
came
like,
out like they had maggots.
That was
Yeah,
kinda
at that
gross.
point I thought this animal's not coming back to life.
Yeah,
There's
no.
no way it's
The
been
maggots are
eaten
eating
apart.
away at him. No wonder he's pissed
And
off.
so like maybe overthinking it too much on the science side. And most movies I can overlook that, but I definitely was thinking about the science there, and like, yeah, those organs are trash. They're not going to be useful.
How effective is the film's use of Victorian era setting in establishing its atmosphere?
I did like the scenes. I thought that they spent the money well with, I don't know how many of them were actually sets or if they were where they were filming. Do you know where they
I
were
don't
filming
know.
this?
Some of
Or
that's got to
where they
be
filmed
green
it?
screen.
Yeah.
Like some of the buildings were probably real, but then the
A lot
rest
of
the
CG.
city, right?
The colors and the circus we mentioned in
That
the,
was
you know,
pretty.
how awesome the circus was. They had fireworks and stuff, but I thought that, you know, the way that they sort of brought in, I guess, like a mid 1800s type city life
Yeah.
was interesting. Yeah.
What role does Inspector Turpin play in the narrative, and how does he represent societal views on science?
Who is Mr. Turpin again?
The inspector.
Oh gosh, yes, the police inspector. So like, I didn't think. I thought they could have probably cut his character entirely,
Completely?
but I don't know. I mean,
They had
There
to
was
have a reason
some-
to run.
there was some parts where, you know, where he broke in and they had to get out, but I just didn't like how they had multiple plot lines running throughout the whole movie.
How does Lorelai's influence Igor's moral compass throughout the film?
Well, obviously he's in love with her, and he's gonna listen to whatever she tells him. Pretty much.
you say is right.
Whatever you say, honey. But yeah, she does look out for his best interest. And I mean, she has good reason to. He saved her life at the beginning. So yeah, she loves him too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for covering all this. Thanks for answering those
Yeah.
questions.
I was
get
going
how
to say,
it's not
go
the
ahead.
best film ever. Oh, you had another story to
Oh,
tell.
yeah. So my grandfather was like most of our grandfathers in America that are for people our age. They were somehow involved with the Second World War. And so his job was to stay on this island in the Caribbean. Must have been nice, right? He didn't have to go to a front line or anything. But we had a top secret technology called radar. And
Okay.
the Germans didn't know that we could see their boats coming across the Atlantic towards waters near the United States of America. So his job was to watch out for these U-boats that were coming and they would find them. They would see them in the radar, and they would send out airplanes and drop these depth charges down to stop the German U-boats from coming into the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. But while he was there, they had a full outfit. They had to have all the equipment. They had to have food supplies coming in. They had, medical doctor on staff. And so they had this doctor who had, I guess, given them something, cigarettes or alcohol or something, to go and rob a graveyard for him. I'm not making this up. He told me this story when he was old, right before he died. He'd tell me these crazy stories that happened. But he said that he had basically bribed some of these army guys to go rob a grave and take the body back for him to do some experimentations.
That's
and
crazy.
He had good intentions, I get. Not the doctor had good intentions by studying the body. He was like trying to study the anatomy of humans.
Right.
But I did it all wrong. It raised a lot of ethical questions, and then the fact that my granddad's telling me the story, and he's like, yeah, so we were driving in that Jeep, and I'm basically holding this dead stiff, like, around me. Like, I'm holding it up.
That's crazy.
And they had to go through a checkpoint with this body.
Oh, my.
So he had to, like, keep it up in the Jeep like it was an actual person. Living person, I should say.
Right, I got it.
But anyway.
Weekends at Bernie's.
Like, real life.
That's insane.
Crazy stories. Yeah.
Wow.
Now they have, more proper ways to do this. Like,
yes.
I think
donating your body
Baylor
to
in
science.
Texas has a body
Right.
medical science program.
Would you
where
donate
can
your body to science, Stephen?
I'm thinking about signing up for that, yes. They can be like, man, this guy, he's had some health problems. Look
He
at
ate
his
some
big...
tacos, man.
Yeah, this big gut.
Me too. I love tacos. All right. Well, thanks for talking to me about this movie. I know it's not the best. Well, thank you everybody for listening. This has been Nightmare Echoes. We have new episodes every Monday. If you could, please leave us a 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. And hope you hear us next time. Bye.
All right, bye. So Igor is a hunchback clown with the circus. And when I was in my 20s, I volunteered with this group in South Austin. They were kind of like these circus-like folks. And there's this area that they used to live with, like mobile homes and trailers and stuff, called the Enchanted Forest. And it's been shut down by the city where I lived. But, for all kinds of reasons. But the main thing is they, during the month of October, they did this really cool haunted woods where, like, all the people in the community would get together and make this haunted woods that you could walk through in this community. And they would take their sometimes freakish things and put it on display for enjoyment and theatrical purposes. Like, they had deformities sometimes, as some of the people had deformities, so they would show it off to kind of like freak somebody out. Or there was a really cool area where people were dressed up in like Japanese geisha type outfits. There was this hobo camp with a real fire. There was a graveyard with zombies. Anyway, I was interested in it because I liked stuff like that. So I went and met the guy who organized it. I think his name might have been Albert, but he told me that I could help out. So I did a few things while I was there. And one of the roles that I played was the spider who was raised by wolves and didn't know any better. But it was such an enjoyment to like just take part in this community of, I don't want to say freaks, but like, circus-like type people, and be part of this and doing things like that are a little bit freakish myself. Anyway, I had a voice going and a story, and I remember when I was playing the part of that spider, I would scare people so badly that they would run back to the zombies in the graveyard. So fun. But they had this group of clowns there too. And this one guy, he would walk around on stilts, and he would get smashed drunk too. And he'd walk around, he'd walk up to somebody behind them while they're walking through the woods. So imagine like dark woods at night. You don't know what's around the corner. You just saw this freakish spider like guy. And then out of nowhere behind you comes this clown on stilts looking down above your head, like down in your face. And he would say this thing, "Don't you like clowns? Happy clowns." Anyway, the circus scenes were done so well in this movie. It just reminded me of the haunted woods that I used to have fun and volunteer with.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, bye.